Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 19 of the Halloween Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing a new Cricut Halloween papercraft project with you every day for 20 days. Today's project is this unusual spiderweb dreamcatcher design. It's got lots of layers of cardstock and then the cute little Halloween characters hang off the bottom for something which will look really stunning when it's displayed on your wall. The SVG for this dreamcatcher is free for the next 24 hours. If you've not already registered for the Halloween Craft Countdown, it's not too late. Go to craftwithsarah.com/HCC to get your free ticket. If you're already registered, here's how to download the Dreamcatcher SVG. If you've already registered your free ticket, check for an email from me with subject line Halloween Craft Countdown ticket information, or any of the other emails from me that you have been sent throughout the countdown. Can't find them? Check your junk or spam box to see if they've gone there by mistake. These emails contain the link to view the countdown projects and download today's files. Scroll down this page to find today's project. Click the button to start the files automatically downloading to your computer or mobile device. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/HCC bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files and projects from the Halloween Craft Countdown. All downloads come in zip folders. You will need to unzip them before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. I'm going to do a quick disclaimer before I start this project, which is, when I filmed this video, I didn't realise, because I was testing the design for the first time, that once the Dreamcatcher was hung up, it would actually spin like this, so you can see both sides. So my file that I've tested for this project's only got the one side on it. So when you upload the SVG, yours will look a little bit different to how it does in this video, because you'll have a front and a back piece of this spider web and also of all of the little pictures. Whereas I started this video with just the one spider web and one of all the pictures. Then I realized I was going to need a second picture so that when they spin, there's one on the front and the back. So about halfway through the video, all of a sudden you'll see that I end up with two instead of one, where I worked that bit out. But I didn't realize until I went to take the photos of the finished project that I'd also need another spider web for the back. So you, when you're making this, will do two of the spider web, whereas in my video, I'm only going to do one. I'm going to write that really big on the tutorial and the assembly guide and everything like that to hopefully make it clear. But unfortunately, I have run out of a lot of the colours of the card that I used, so I didn't want to have to remake it and redo the whole video. So just bear in mind, you'll be doing everything twice. I'm only doing it once. If there was any disaster project for this Halloween Craft Countdown, this one would probably be it, but it has turned out really, really nice. Just a little bit more tricky than I was originally anticipating. So there we go. Now we've done that disclaimer, let's see how to put the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the file into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, and then go into Upload on the left, and then Upload Image. You can then click Browse to find the file on your computer, or you can drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of your folder, then go into Cut Files. There are 3 different versions of the file in here, and the one for Cricut Design Space is the one which starts SVG in the file name. Make sure you choose that one, and I'll drag and drop it in, and then it should look like this with a really long list of your spider web and then all of the little pictures underneath. Press Upload, and then click the design and press Add to Canvas. It might take a while as it's a tool file, but then here we go. There are 2 copies of all of the little pictures, and the ones at the bottom, these ones here without the black outline, are mirror images of the ones on top. And that's because we're going to be sticking them to the front and the back of our strings which come down, so that when the strings move and twirl and swirl around, you'll be able to see the pretty picture on both sides. This should load in at the correct size, which is just over 7.3 inches in width. I think I'll make mine a bit bigger though. Let's go 7.75 inches wide. When you're resizing, make sure that your padlock icon is closed. Don't worry that the height is really tall. This is showing 24 inches. It's because all of the layers are grouped together. But because all our pictures are individual and not joined together, you can still cut it from any size of paper. When you're ready, press Make It, and then it will spit it out into the colours so I can show you what I mean. You can change the paper size in this drop down on the left, and you will have to do that for every single colour. And then you can move things about if you want to try and take up less space on your cardstock. Make sure you don't overlap anything like that, because otherwise it won't cut out properly. Make sure things have a nice space around them so that nothing is touching. When you're happy with how everything's looking, press Continue to connect to your Cricut machine, get everything cut out from cardstock, and then I'll show you how to put together your spooky Halloween dreamcatcher. Here are my pieces of the spooky spiderweb dreamcatcher all cut out, and I've put them in the order that I'm going to be sticking them all together. Now, one thing I've already done to speed up this video is that for most of the little critters, I've stuck them together. So most of them come with 2 layers like this pumpkin. We've got a front one with some detail and then a bottom one which is solid. The exception is the bats, which only come as just the 1 bat layer. I'm going to glue all these together. So for the pumpkin, let's turn him upside down and add some glue. And then stick that onto the coloured layer underneath. Don't stick it to the black bits yet because we need to thread those together first. But by sticking these together first and just putting them out the way, it means they can all nicely dry whilst we're putting together everything else. And now I know the order of these. Let's move them out the way. There we go, so that we can concentrate on the spider web. And now I've done that, it means I can zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Here's my spider web, which comes in 4 different layers. The bottom one has these holes in it, which we're going to use to tie everything together. And then we've got the other layers. Actually, I lied. It's 5 layers. Here we go. There's the other ones. These will be stacked together with a combination of glue and 3D foam pads. The glue, which you saw me using earlier, is called Kalal. I really like it because it doesn't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like some glues can do. And then to get into all those tiny pieces of the spider web, I've put it into this needle tip applicator bottle. We'll start with, not the one with the holes in, put that one to one side. We'll start with the completely solid shape, and then the one we'll be sticking on top of that is this one, which goes all the way to that edge. And for this one, we'll use some 3D foam pads. We'll turn it upside down, and then I've got my foam pads, and I've cut these in half because there's not a lot of room on some of these pieces of the spider web. Let's just get a nice amount of these on here. And also put a few in the middle to give it a really good stick overall. And also that will stop it sagging down in the middle under the weight of itself. Put a little thin bit there too. Now I can peel the tops off to reveal all of the stickiness underneath. Then this will stick to this solid layer. Make sure you get the spikes lined up properly, and then line it up and then gently drop it down. And by doing that, it means that if you hadn't quite lined it up properly, it's really easy to just take it apart again without damaging anything because it's not actually stuck yet. But that's looking good, so I'm going to push down to get all of those foam pads nice and stuck. The next layer to add is this one, and I've moved everything around now. That goes like that. And it's up to you on this one if you want to use foam or glue. It depends how much dimension you're going for. I think I will use some foam. You may need to use a pair of scissors to snip your foam pads smaller, because there's not an awful lot of room on the back of this spiderweb piece. There, and just like last time, we need a couple of bits in the middle too. Then, like before, get this lined up. Now it goes in the middle so that you've got a border of that darker grey around all the edge. It's not quite an even border, so it's not going to be perfect on every side. And then that just goes like that. The final layer is this one, which is super duper narrow, so this is most definitely going to be a glue layer. Turn it upside down, and this is where these needle tip applicator bottles are super duper helpful, because they let you get the glue in these tiny spaces really easily without making any mess. Right, stick this one on. It's a bit fragile on those corners, so be careful. Let's put that in shot a bit more so you can actually see. And again, this sits in the middle. So you've got a border of that darker grey all around the edge. Just gently push that down. I haven't actually stuck that very well. I think it's a bit off-centered than it's supposed to be, but it doesn't matter. You can't even tell. Fabulous. Right, now that is the layers of here. So we've got our base, and it actually goes that way up. So you've got your hole in the top, and then 1, 2, 3, and then that will stick on like that. Have a little think about how you're going to stick all of your little pieces together. You'll need some sort of thread. I'm going to use embroidery thread, and I recommend this because it's quite thin. We're going to need to be threading this through these holes and then sticking other layers on top. So you don't want something like twine, like what I used for the giant sign earlier in the countdown. That'll just be too thick and heavy, and it just won't quite look right. So something like embroidery thread will work much better. First, I'm going to add on my little bit over here, which will be used to hang up the dream catcher when it's finished. I'm going to be a bit over ambitious with the amount I've got, so it's always easier to cut it shorter at the end rather than have to make it longer. So I've cut a piece of this, and then I have just folded it in half to get a loop. Thread that through. Come on, there we go. And then tuck the ends through there and pull it tight. And then that will form a little knot around there. So that's really secure. And then you can just tie this into a knot or a bow at the top so that it will hang up on a nail or a picture hook or something like that. Oop. Next, we've got the 3 bits which are going to come down for the hanging parts, and we'll start with this left one, which is pumpkin, bat, and ghost. Let's zoom out a bit. Going to do the same thing again. Get some of that embroidery thread. Nice long bit. Only this time I'm not going to fold it in half, because otherwise you'll see double the amount being hung down. So this time I'm just going to thread it in there and then turn this upside down. tie a knot. Get it nice and tight. And then that end's a bit long, so let's trim it. And that will dangle down. So don't worry that you can see these bits of thread here. They'll be covered over when we put the other layers on here. But now we need to attach the little pictures. I'll start with I was going to call it a mushroom. It's definitely not a mushroom. The pumpkin, and I've cut this way too long. I probably didn't need to be quite as ambitious as I was, but never mind. So this is going to go in the back, in that hole, and then through the front. There we go. And then thread it through until it's falling where you want it to go. So it's completely up to you. I think probably about there. And then turn it upside down. And then I'm going to thread it through the top hole again, like that. And then pull it tight, just to make a little knot so it's a bit more secure. And then we need some sticky tape because at the moment this would just fall downwards on that thread by itself. So a bit of tape to go all the way along and put that exactly where we want it to stay. It's going to cover those holes. Make sure your tape doesn't poke out the sides around the edge, but it can go over those holes in the middle. I'm going to add a few pieces just to make sure it's really well secure in there. All right. And then, turn it back round. There we go. And then at the end, our little picture will be put on the middle there to hide all of that space. Now we can move on to the next one, which is the bat. And these have only got one hole in them. So thread it in. Decide where you want it to go. And then turn it over. And we're just going to tape this straight to it. Quite small tape on this one. This is another reason why embroidery thread works well, because it is quite thin. So the tape will hold. Oh look, I've done that the wrong way round because now that's on that side and that's on that side. Okay, I'll fix that at the end. For now, let's do that last one, which is the ghost. So this will go in the top, out the bottom, pull it to where you want it to go. I think about there. And then make the knot again. So I'm going to go in that top hole. Oh, missed. Pull tight. About there. And then turn it upside down and tape it in. And then I'm also going to cut the end of my thread and make sure that's really well stuck to the back of the final picture that goes down that piece of thread. So this is my first bit done, just about to see. And I'm now going to do the same thing for the other two strings. Now I've got all three of my little strings stuck together, and if I pull it down a bit, you can see there's my top. And what I've done is, because I realized that each side of this is going to need a little picture on it, I've put my sticky tape on both sides just for an extra little bit of hold. So I've got my 3 strings with the pictures. There's another little one at the bottom in there. And then I've threaded it through. It's got tape, sticky tape on both sides. So now I can add all these pretty pictures on top. Here they are. Okay, so let's start with the big one. Move that down here. And I think I can zoom in now because I'm just going to do it a little bit at a time. Okay, I've also put some tape over these bits on the tie. I think that one's probably okay without any because remember we sort of double knotted that one. And then here's my spider web, which is going to stick on top. And make sure you've got it the right way round. And then because my string's quite thin, I'm going to glue this on top. If your string is thick, you might need to use foam squares instead, just so it's got a little bit of gap underneath it for your strings to go. I'm just going to cut the end off of that one. Actually, I'm going to stick it upwards. Otherwise, that little end of thread's going to be visible. So, tuck that up there. And then I've made that a tiddly bit too big, so I'll cut it. Okay, so put my glue, make sure you don't get any of the thread. Right, gonna put the glue on here. You want quite a lot of glue because the spider web is quite a few layers. It's going to be heavy. And then stick that on. It goes all the way to the edge. Just make sure your hanging bits are still hanging down where they're supposed to. Get that nicely lined up. My string's coming out the top. Okay. And while that's drying, we can start on the little pictures. So for these ones, again, it's up to you. You can either glue them or you can use foam. I'm going to glue them. Again, because my string is not that thick, I can get away with it. And I think if you were to do it with foam, you'd probably see some of the tape underneath from the edges, whereas with glue, it's going to be a little bit more protected. So here's one side of my pumpkin. I'm going to go all the way down one side of the strings first and then turn it over once all of that's really, really, really dry and do the reverse side. Make sure you get them the right way round so that it lines up properly against the black. You should have a nice gap of black all the way around the edge to make a border. Right, that's one string done. I'm going to pause my recording and do my other 2 strings, and then we'll come back to do the reverse side in a moment. That's one side of all my strings done. Now I just need to turn them over and do exactly the same on the other side. So all of my little pictures have got a corresponding reverse version, which is going to be stuck on the back. And again, for me, I'm going to use glue, but if you want to, you can use your foam squares. Right, that's one of 3. And then again, I'm going to pause my recording to do the other 2 sides. And then that will be my spooky spiderweb dream catcher all finished. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a spooky spiderweb dream catcher for Halloween. If you did, please give it a thumbs up And I hope to see you tomorrow for the final day of the Halloween craft countdown. Thank you for watching. Bye!